Florida, the holy land of the world's aerospace industry, once shone brightly during NASA's era with Saturn V and Space Shuttle. It was thought that the glory would fade when those vehicles retired, but SpaceX emerged and elevated that legacy. Launching more frequently, landing continuously, and particularly with superior rocket reusability, SpaceX has not only inherited but surpassed NASA's achievements, continually shocking everyone in the global space industry. Recently, once again, SpaceX just did something in Florida more mind-blowing than any of us thought. Let's find out more in today's episode of Alpha Tech. Failure is not an option, and that's a motto that's existed in the history of the aerospace industry and still holds true today. With SpaceX's Falcon rocket line, although it has become extremely reliable to the world, that doesn't mean it doesn't have a problem. What's bound to happen will happen, and after 7 years of excellent service, the upper stage of the Falcon unexpectedly encountered an issue up there in space. While this might be a disappointment for rocket enthusiasts like us, for SpaceX, it wasn't that much of a burden. Unexpected technical malfunctions seem to have appeared frequently in all their rocket manufacturing work. Therefore, it's not surprising to see how quickly SpaceX handled this. The incident happened July 11th, and just 10 days later, SpaceX sent an incident report to the FAA to apply for a relaunch permit for Falcon 9. By July 26th, SpaceX got permission from the government agency to resume launching Falcon 9. And on July 27th, Falcon 9 officially returned to space. This extremely rapid turnaround time surprised all of us. If we calculate it simply, the suspension period for Falcon 9 was just 15 days, which is quite short compared to all the other previous suspensions due to incidents in the aerospace industry. Notably, we mentioned the over 1 year suspension of Blue Origin's suborbital rocket, New Shepard. At that time, Blue Origin also promised a quick return after several months of research, but the FAA's results showed that their investigation and technical fixes were not swift, which was the main reason the spacecraft couldn't fly. Virgin Galactic's VSS Unity spacecraft was also suspended by FAA for several months due to a misaligned pen detaching after a suborbital mission. Even the Soyuz spacecraft from Russia, a historic rocket with over 1,000 flights, couldn't avoid errors and was grounded for several months of investigation. From these examples, we can see how outstanding SpaceX is in identifying and resolving issues quickly. This speed is largely related to the fact that the problem turned out to not be too serious. The cause of the accident was a cracked fuel line at the liquid oxygen pressure sensor in the second stage. The line cracked due to fatigue from high loads from engine vibrations and a loose retaining clamp. After identifying the cause, SpaceX decided to remove the liquid oxygen pressure sensors from the second stages of future Falcon 9 rockets. The issue is that their frustration is duplicated by alternative sensors already present in the engine. Engineers also conducted additional inspections of all fuel lines and sensor clamps on upcoming Falcon 9 flights, and in some cases, proactively replaced them. For near-term Falcon launches, the failed sense line and sensor on the second stage engine will be removed, SpaceX wrote in an anomaly update on July 25th. The sensor is not used by the flight safety system and can be recovered by alternate sensors already present on the engine. After overcoming the obstacle, SpaceX did not choose the safe path, but instead accelerated the process. With burning passion and immense confidence, they made a bold decision to carry out 3 straight launches from the Florida launch pad. This was the initial push for SpaceX's campaign to increase launch frequency at the historic Florida launch site. Rocket launches in Cape Canaveral, Florida, have undergone major developments since the first launch back in 1950. At first, these were rare, highly noteworthy events that caused people to stop what they were doing and watch. Over time, the frequency of rocket launches has gone up. Now, rocket launches have become routine, no longer a reason to skip out on school or work like they once were. This reflects advancements in technology and the growth of the space industry. SpaceX, Elon's company, has played a huge role in this transformation. Their Falcon 9 rockets accounted for 94% of the launches in Florida for 2024. Demonstrating SpaceX's dominance in the commercial space sector. Weekly Falcon 9 rockets have created a stable and predictable schedule, increasing the efficiency of space operations and making it easier for the public to follow these launches. Despite a 2-week lull, SpaceX quickly caught up and resumed their launches by sending 23 Starlink satellites from Kennedy Space Center early on Saturday, July 27th. The next launch happened Sunday the 28th when a Falcon 9 rocket carrying 23 Starlink satellites lifted off from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. This was the 14th mission for this Falcon 9 first stage and 300th reflight of a booster, SpaceX announced in a post on X. Oh my goodness. Even these initial launches set a new record. Truly amazing, and Elon could not hide his joy and shared a SpaceX post. 300th reuse of a Falcon rocket boost stage. The third Falcon 9 launched hours later from Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. This rocket carried 21 Starlink satellites, including 13 capable of delivering service right to mobile phones. According to SpaceX, 3 missions were completely successful. The first stages of the rocket successfully landed on sea-based drone ships, and the upper stages deployed the Starlink satellites into LEO as planned. With this launch, Falcon 9 has completed 73 launches since the start of the year with a 98.6% success rate. A++, and that's a dream number for many rockets worldwide. On top of that, it achieved an impressive feat with 49 launches from 2 pads in Florida, significantly more than previous years, and of course, more than the launches on the West Coast in California. However, SpaceX hoped to launch once a week from Vandenberg in 2024. With increased business from Florida, the ability to launch more Starlink missions from Cali could benefit bandwidth improvement. In the coming years, SpaceX could launch as many in Florida around 2023. Increasing the launch frequency is a goal with much potential, but achieving it is not a simple task. Only SpaceX can accomplish this, and only Falcon 9 is capable of doing it. Placing Falcon 9 in the current launch market, it's undeniable, and it dominates satellite launches, and more importantly, low Earth orbit launches carrying cargo and astronauts to the ISS. NASA's looking forward to Falcon 9 launching at the Northrop Grumman Singa supply ship to the ISS on August 3rd. Followed by the SpaceX Crew Dragon flight carrying 3 agency astronauts and a Russian cosmonaut to the lab around August 18th. The second stage slated for use with a piloted flight, known as Crew 9, will be test-fired in the coming days at a SpaceX facility near McGregor, Texas, to verify the company's corrective action will have no unexpected consequences. It's going to undergo a second-stage hot fire on the 30th of July, and that's really to check out some of the new modifications that the vehicle will have as a result of the anomaly, said Steve Stitch, NASA's Commercial Crew Program, said on Friday. We have been following along step by step with that investigation that the FAA has been doing. SpaceX has been very transparent. We've had our teams embedded in the investigation and following along all the changes on that booster. The space agency has not formally cleared those flights for launch, but SpaceX's successful return to flight this weekend no doubt plays a role in the eventual decision. Boeing engineers also had a busy weekend, successfully test-firing 27 maneuvering thrusters in the company's Starliner capsule now docked at the ISS. The tests verified good performance with Reaction Control System (RCS) thrusters that ran into problems earlier and confirmed that known helium leaks in the capsule's propulsion system had remained stable and not worsened. Other tests also showed that the thrusters will work properly during the ship's eventual return to Earth. The one-pulse firings were designed to confirm the performance of each thruster, Boeing wrote in an update. Between each firing, the team reviewed data real-time, and all thrusters performed at peak thrust rating values. The helium system also remained stable, the company said. Additionally, an RCS oxidizer isolation valve that was not fully seated previously was cycled 7 times during Saturday's testing and is now operating normally. Launched June 5th on the spacecraft's first piloted test flight, the Starliner crew commander Barry Butch Wilmore and co-pilot Sunita Williams originally expected to spend about 8 days in space. That mission has now lasted nearly 2 months because of work to troubleshoot the thruster issues and 5 helium leaks, 1 detected before launch and 4 developed during the capsule's rendezvous with the space station. NASA is expected to hold a major review late this week to assess the test data and determine the ship's readiness to bring Wilmore and Williams safely back home. As for SpaceX and Falcon 9, the company blamed the July 11th failure on a crack in an upper stage sensor line, caused by a loose bracket and metal fatigue that led to a liquid oxygen leak. Sarah Walker, a senior manager at SpaceX, said for piloted Crew Dragon flights, the second stage engine only fires once, and the leak that derailed the Starlink launch would not have been a factor in a crewed flight. In any case, the fitting that leaked will be removed. I'm extremely confident of the team, the integrated approach in which NASA is incorporated into the response, said Nick Hague, Crew 9 co-pilot and veteran of a Russian Soyuz launch abort, and I'm excited to strap onto the rocket when the team decides it's time to go. He said the crew was training at SpaceX's Hawthorne, California headquarters the day after the Starlink launch anomaly occurred, and from the get-go, they brought us into the conversation and told us everything that they knew. Along with providing an update on SpaceX's near-term Falcon 9 plans, Walker also addressed an unexpected issue with debris from Crew Dragon trunk sections that managed to survive the heat of re-entry to hit the ground. The trunk section, outfitted with solar cells, helps power the Crew Dragon in space and carries external station payloads to orbit in an unpressurized environment. Before re-entry, the trunk is jettisoned. The crew capsule, equipped with a heat shield, then fires its braking rockets to drop out of orbit for a precisely targeted ocean splashdown. The trunk continues on in low orbit and eventually makes an uncontrolled re-entry. Early in the program, engineers concluded the entire trunk would completely burn up during re-entry, but on several occasions, relatively large, charred chunks of trunk debris have survived entry to hit the ground. Returning Crew Dragon astronauts and recently launched cargo Dragon supply ships have all returned to splashdowns off the coast of Florida, either in the Gulf of Mexico or in the Atlantic Ocean. Walker said SpaceX now plans to move all cargo and Crew Dragon splashdowns to the Pacific Ocean off the West Coast. Trunk sections will now be jettisoned after the deorbit rocket firing, making sure they all fall back into the atmosphere in roughly the same area the crew and cargo capsules do, that is, well offshore. That's all for today's episode. Thank you so much for watching and see you next time.